that people enjoy doing all kinds of things to disco music, everything from driving to shopping to cooking. Hence, disco radio was born. And I have with me Wanda, who was one of the pioneers of disco radio. She started one of the biggest disco stations in the country, and now she's a consultant to disco stations all across America. Wanda, when they say that you're a consultant to stations, what does it mean when you're hired in to do an overhaul for a station?
Well, actually, we changed the entire format of the station. That means the entire sound has changed from commercials to disc jockeys to the actual music. We give them an entire new playlist as such.
How do you choose the records that go on a playlist for a station?
Well, we do use New York as a guideline because it does break out a lot of records, and basically it's what's happening at the moment nationally and regionally, depending on how far advanced the market is. Some places records start a little faster than others. So each market has a little different, choice of selections in different places.
But when you say that you choose New York records that are popular in New York, how do you know what records are really popular?
Well, you call disc jockeys, you call clubs, you go to clubs, you listen yourself to, you got a good ear, and you call stores especially to see what's selling. It's a lot of input you can use because there's a lot of people there now. Well, disco is so hot. There are a lot of places that have a lot of disco music playing or people dancing to it, so you can get a lot of input.
Do you have a staff of people that work for you that do all these telephone calls?
My husband helps me out a lot. He does a lot of phone calls for me. Basically, he's into that research. So he does a lot of calls, not only for New York, but nationally also. We call different disc jockeys in different cities and stores, and we do our own little research. So we know what's really going on all across the nation.
Well, now, when any artist, musician records a record, they want a hit record out of it. Wanda, when you listen to a record, can you tell better from your ear whether it's going to be a hit or from the statistical data that you gather?
You basically can tell. I have a good track record of picking a good hit, so you can tell when you hear it. Very few records that aren't that good that I have heard that I don't like make it. I mean, very few have. So it's basically an ear, it's a taste. And there are a lot of disco music, but there are only a few things that are kind of creeping through. So it's not really that difficult to actually hear a good record. There are not that many.
And we've been talking in earlier shows about the origins of disco music, how it's related to rhythm and blues music. When you program music for a disco station, do you put any old R&B stuff into it? Or?
Oh, sure, there's a lot. Actually, we go back to at least maybe 1971 or 72 with a lot of the old R&B hits. A lot of the Tramps and Supreme, some of the old Motown stuff. So, of course, that's one of the very, very big roots or basics of that music.
Now, you operate out of New York City, and everybody knows folks are different in the Big Apple than they are anywhere else in the country. How can you tell if a record is really going to be popular in a state like Montana?
Well, there are places, even Montana does have its big discos. And usually we search those out, and we usually call up and make sure that we know who the guy is and get instant reaction from a crowd as such. That's the first place that you can actually find a reaction to the record. Other than that, you got to rely on stores, but the first initial thing is that discotheque, and that's really very important. And we follow the clubs a lot because that's where it comes from, and that's probably where it'll stay.
Do you think that a lot of disco DJs and clubs break records, with it?
Oh, of course, sure. They get all the test pressings first and everything. That's why you have to really go and you have to call them and you have to be there to make sure that you know what they're playing and that you hear exactly and see the reaction on the floor yourself, not just what somebody's telling you, because you never know.
Now, I wonder, your disc jockeys who are on the radio stations, do they get feedback from their listeners about songs maybe that they're not familiar with yet?
Most of our stations do have a request line, which they take and request, and then end of the week we play them back to the people so they can hear their most requested songs. So that's something that does also create input. But it's usually the same things that we're playing, so we're not far off, which makes us feel pretty good.
Do you program any special kinds of things on stations like, unlimited music without commercials or,
Oh, we do
spotlights
that.
on artists?
Usually on Friday and Saturday nights we have like disco parties, uninterrupted music on tape. Some places they actually take another disc jockey from an actual club to spin, do it on tape for the radio station, which means that we really get into the heart of the community. And most stations do have interviews, either live while those artists comes or on tape. So that also proves beneficial. Donna Summer and all those people. People love to hear or even see them, So that always proves to be good.
Okay, so a station hires you to be their consultant, and you come in and you rearrange their playlist and their commercials or whatever, and then they get obviously better ratings, and then what do you do for them? What kind of continuing work do you do for them?
Well, we watch them, we keep progress, especially on their promotions. A station never can stop promoting. So we watch that and we tell them exactly how things are going with them as far as the ratings are concerned. If they're falling down, we rearrange either the format, the music, whatever has to do with the station to bring it. It's a long climb. I mean, very few stations are going to do like KT jump entirely, you know, like from 0 to, you know, tremendous 11 or 13 numbers. Everybody's, you know, slowly but surely climbing up the ladder, and it's taking time, but all the stations are showing progress, which means that disco is not even peaked yet as far as radio is concerned.
Okay, Wanda, thank you for visiting with us, and you know you can use the disco radio station in your town to practice your disco dancing, too.